Somebody yesterday got a really big face. I was looking for a really big face. I've got a really big face. Same. It's actually a different shirt. Right, here we go. I will introduce you to the category. So the now, next, and the wondrous future. If you've seen one of these before, it's going to be quick. I'm aware we're a little bit behind time, so I'll try and speed it up a little bit as well. But I'll speak slowly, hopefully. So who am I? Quite frankly, I'm the guy from yesterday. Remember me? I do tech, creative, and business stuff. I join lots of dots between lots of things. I do lots of things also on that, but that makes me all a little bit weird. But that's the joy of what I'm doing here. I spot those little patterns. I now help companies do creative, innovative technology things as well. I've got some new business cards. I've never had a business card before in my life. I've got some. Come and get some. Please take them home. My wife has told me not to bring them home. And I like shirts. And yes, I was wearing a different shirt this morning, and I didn't like the color. I've got enough shirts to do a shirt change. There you go. Nice. I'm going to talk about the Gartner hype curve. This happens every year. Comes out August, I think it is. Gartner are a research company, and there are many curves that they produce, and this is the emerging technology curve. So I'll explain what it works. You have an innovation trigger, something happens, there's an invention or something like that, maybe a concept. You all hear about it, maybe at a conference, maybe somebody like me talking about it, maybe on LinkedIn. You all hear about it, and the hype goes up. Everybody thinks, well, this is at the peak of the hype, and then you realize it doesn't quite do what you thought it could do. You go into the trough of disillusionment, and then eventually you figure out what it can do, which is the slope of enlightenment, and then you go off on the plateau of productivity, and you go and make it happen. So once it's on the plateau of productivity, nobody's really talking about it. It's got low hype. Quite frankly, I've got a laser pointer. Doesn't really work. If you need to write an article about something, you write it about the stuff on the left-hand side. It will get published because people are interested in the hype. However, there are some things on there, generative AI, machine learning, post-quantum cryptography, if you're into that. If you're not, come and have a chat. I'll tell you about it. But this is suspiciously empty again for the second year in a row. So there's nothing really on this slope of enlightenment and productivity. It's because we're constipated around generative AI. So as soon as we've figured out, and we're starting to see the little cracks in it, we're going to be disillusioned quite soon. What else has been up here? NFTs, blockchain, you name it, has been up there. You know those things that have been up there. The metaverse was probably up there 2 years ago. However, smart dust has disappeared. So if you were following smart dust, which nobody knew what it was, it's now gone, so don't worry about that. Again, if you do want to know what it is, come and have a chat later. However, let's do this, let's go through. This was the brief, blow people's minds, but just keep it practical. Don't scare anybody. This is the last thing. We want no tears. And this is obviously a very current photo. I had to search long and far to get a really old one, so well done, Richard. So I'll go through the now, next, and the future. So in 3 sections, I will explain them as we go. 4 examples I think I've done for each one. The now, obviously that's getting further into the future, each one. So the now is the stuff that is available now. Maybe you haven't seen it, maybe you have, but it is available. It is on the plateau of productivity. So we're going to choose the first one, Roblox. You should all be aware of Roblox. If you're not, it's possibly one of the most popular sites right now for a certain demographic, probably under 24s. But that said, probably 50% are over 16. Every day, 71 million people go and visit it. Any one time, you've got 6 million people playing. So it's a big deal. Lots of brands are going into Roblox and creating their own branded experiences. It's sort of the metaverse, but sort of not, because the metaverse isn't really a thing. However, if you are a fashion brand, if you are a car brand, if you're a toy brand or a sports brand, you are creating worlds within the Roblox world. Earlier this year, they launched video advertising. And how did they do it? They did it as billboards. Okay? And behind this, they have a full programmatic platform. So if you're an advertiser, you go in there, you say, I'd like to target certain people at certain times. They go, yeah, where would you like to do it? Near the fashion zone, please. Okay, which fashion zone? It's all available to you. If you look at the top, these are some of the metrics they look for. Is it fully visible? How long have they shown it to? Who was it seen to? Was it seen at the right angle? Very similar to the sort of view metrics that we have. So if there is an opportunity, for instance, you want to go and target worldwide, Are you going into this sort of world as well? If there is a programmatic media platform and you have one, should you be joining APIs? Should you be targeting your video adverts across the virtual worlds as well? GameSense, love this one. So this is, as the name implies, this is Scent for games, but it just works off video. So it is a box with smells in it, and we heard yesterday, like only environment, that's what we do really well. So you put some little bottles of scent, smell, you plug in a HDMI cable. You don't have to do any programming. It uses computer vision, it looks at what the video is saying, and it says, right, it seems to be a car driving game, and you seem to have crashed. I'll do the smoke and the petrol, whatever it was. If you look at some of the smells, you've got gunfire, you've got explosion, maybe you've got forest, clean air, storms, freshly cut grass. You've also got blood, the smell of blood, which is nice. Sports arenas, so I guess dudes and sweat, I guess. But basically, you can plug this. If you've got, for instance, a shopping mall and you want to give that extra experience, you can actually tailor these. You can make your own as well. And it will only do the smell when the video needs the smell. You don't need to do anything else. So that's available right now. This is Runway ML, so great to see Stephen's presentation yesterday actually put a call out to Runway as well. So this is actually its motion brush. So Runway ML is an AI generative video platform. You type in what you want, it will generate the video. Short little clips. It's traditionally, this is like for about a year now, traditionally, in the AI world, it's been what you've seen the video being created with. The very short clips, you know, when you saw like really weird fingers and people that couldn't quite hold things, it's usually Runway ML. It's got really good, and this is the motion brush. So what you do is you have up to 5 areas of a static image. You can then highlight those areas, and you tell it where you want them to go. It is a motion brush. So here's a good example here. Here's 4 of the areas, and where do you want them to go? Well, just sort of look different directions. It will animate it for you. The beauty of this is it starts with your image. If you start with video generation, it will start generating random bits of video mostly. If you start with your image, it's just doing subtle motion. So if you've got a static campaign, you want to do a roadside, you need subtle motion, or if you want to extend your campaign, then this is a tool that will actually do it right now. So really useful. That is actually the motion brush. And this is also, it's one of those things that you think, why haven't I heard of this? Why didn't I think of it before? A little wallet you have on your phone, Starbucks, that loyalty card you've got on your phone. When you walk into Starbucks and you have that sort of blink in your pocket, it's location-based triggering. So it's in your phone already, and it can do that little thing where you collect loyalty points. So a company like Phoebe give that to you. You create a loyalty card, you put it in your wallet, and it could be for anything. It can be for your billboard. It can be for your advertiser. If you see, let's call it Dino Media, I'm a Dino Media and I've got 2 billboards, I can then say if I go anywhere near my ring fence or my geo fence, it can then give me the loyalty points for collecting my billboard. It can actually just be, oh, there's Coca-Cola on the billboard, I can get a Coca-Cola loyalty point, which I can then redeem for Coca-Cola or whatever it is. But this can be triggered location or time, and they will give you the opportunity of creating your own card. QR code, it appears in your wallet, and then you can collect loyalty points. That loyalty point system gives you all the data from the phone, the person, the location, the campaign, whatever it might need to be. So really, really interesting in America. So they're available worldwide as well. This is next, so some of the things that are sort of on the, you know, just starting to be a little bit more interesting, but maybe not on that plateau we talked about. Gaussian splatting. Who's heard of Gaussian splatting? Brilliant, nobody. Excellent. So Gaussian splatting is the big deal in 3D rendering right now. The last maybe 6 months or so, you could not, if you're somebody like me, you could not go near a forum about 3D rendering without hearing about Gaussian splatting. Gaussian splatting is really well demonstrated on the right-hand side. Imagine you're trying to recreate a scene in 3D by just putting splats in the middle of the air. And if you look at the splats in a certain way, it makes a scene. If you move around, it makes no sense. And if you look over here, there's another scene looking through some more splats. So what you do is you just create these splats in the air, big splats like dinner plate splats. Okay, but it's really efficient. All you've got to do is tell you where the splats are, look through them, and so you don't have to do pixel by pixel by pixel by pixel. Splats in the air. Okay, and this is a sort of definition. This is running on a mobile phone. So this is somebody who's been 3D scanned, and now you're now rendering them with Gaussian splats at 100 frames a second on a very low-powered device. So if your screens need to be running real time, for instance, you've got pre-rendered, you've probably got Unreal, and then you've got whatever you want to do using Gaussian splatting. Fully editable, live as well. So it's a really big deal. It's probably going to be the future for the next 2 years of rendering. We also need to talk about this thing. It came out earlier the year, so this is the Vision Pro from Apple. $3,500 US only at the moment, but it's coming to Europe pretty soon. So it's augmented reality. So this is Casey Neistat, YouTuber, sort of popular, definitely subscribe. However, what I'm showing you this for, he's in Times Square, he's looking through the Vision Pro, and these screens here are locked into his vision. What the Vision Pro does really well, and if you've had a go of them, it blows your mind. It locks things into your vision really well. So the screens that he's seeing, these video screens, are augmented into the melee that is Times Square. However, who's putting them in there? Is that your job? Is that my job? If you've got your hardware, you've got a big screen, you've done all of the planning to get that screen there, you're the media owner, it's cost you a lot of money, and somebody in somebody's vision just put something in front of it, well, whose job's that? Should we be putting billboards into this vision, and why would they allow that to happen? This is a really interesting world. Apple showed just how brilliantly it can lock 3D scenes into the virtual world. We need to be thinking about this. We talked about ChatGPT yesterday. It's a company called OpenAI who do ChatGPT. All of those big things you heard, Gemini being mentioned as well, those big AI models, they're looking to what's called multimodal. So lots of modes of generation, text, video, code, music, these are all the things. So you used to have ChatGPT, it did chat, and then you had Midjourney, it would do something else. And now they're all trying to do everything. So of course, OpenAI, who also power Microsoft, so Copilot, they now have their Sora video generation model. And this is the sort of quality you get from a text prompt. You know, I would like a horsefly, or whatever that is. It can generate that, and this is the sort of quality you get. The one in the right-hand side, I'll sort of draw your attention to that specifically. This was called Balloon Head, and it was supposed to then show you that you can actually now, as a video creator, create a narrative storytelling within AI. You do not need any cameras, you don't need anything anymore. It turns out that that was actually heavily post-produced as well, because they couldn't get the AI, like I was saying before, to generate a yellow balloon as a head in every scene. But it's starting to get there. This is what somebody has envisioned as the intro to the TED Talks in 2050. So this huge piece of video here, one long scene, it's all generated by AI. So that's really interesting. What are we doing with that? How are we using that? Maybe it's just for our concepting. Word of warning from yesterday, you are going to have to lead this. You should be using it as a co-pilot. It should be generating it, but you have to be in control. Loads of companies I advise at the moment, like they will not let anything out into the world that a human has not seen or vetted. You can use it to generate, but do not plug this into your production pipeline that goes straight onto a screen somewhere. You have no idea what's actually going to arrive. So that's Sora. And this is a really weird thing. So business process outsourcing. And it's a weird thing, but we saw it yesterday. So the guarded bus stop is a very good example of this. So this is actually on LinkedIn. And somebody went to a fast food restaurant, bought whatever it was, and went to pay. And there was no person behind the counter to take their money because they were in the Philippines, basically just live, they're doing a video call. And that's what they'd done. They'd outsourced their human being to a screen. So 24/7, you've got somebody who's available to actually have a chat with you. So imagine you take that screen, you put it into your shopping center, you've got your wide coverage media, you've got whatever it is, and then you've got maybe a few special ones where you've now got somebody waiting to help you, to sell you, to be your influencer, your sales influencer, to help you to buy some Coke, all those, and they can be very personal. How that scales is another question, but it's really interesting. We're now seeing cheap enough technology, cheap enough labor to be able to then outsource it, in this case, to the Philippines, where actually you can have somebody who's just there for 24 hours a day as an interesting concept. And the future. So we've got 4 more. We're nearly there. This was an experiment called ChatDev, and this was using ChatGPT 3.5, so about 8 months ago. What somebody done is they said, right, we want to use a sim game, so there's little games you might have played on your iPad or something like that, where you can set each character to a task. We said, we're not going to tell it what to do, we're just going to give each character access to ChatGPT, so it can think for itself, quote unquote. And they said, well, we'll give it a brief of making a game. So make a games company, figure out what you got to do. So it coalesced, it figured out what it needed to do. It said, right, to make a game, we need a CEO maybe, a game concept developers, we need actually developers, testers, artists, we need somebody to launch it, PR department. So it figured all that. It knew it needed to do that. It then gave each one of them a brief and a role. The developers then developed it. They sent it to the testers. The testers then sent all the bugs back. Developers then recoded it, literally code, tested it again. That worked. They sent it to the art department. The art department then put art in it and then launched it in 7 minutes. From I need a game to make a company, figure out how you're going to do it, and actually generate it. All those games are playable as well. You can go to the website and you can play every single game that it generated. If you need to sort of experiment with a project, maybe you've got a thought of a business you want to spin up, then in the future this is going to be the way you do it. You can do it now, quite frankly. Like, you can even use this to go, we need to do something, set it a task, and how did it do it? That's probably your production pipeline for how you might want to be doing it in the real world. So it's really interesting what you're doing there. This is Primrose from Adobe. They've been working on it for about 2 years now. If you saw this if you saw my presentation last year, there was a BMW car that had color-changing ink on it, or color-changing paint. It's sort of the same technology. It's non-emissive, i.e. it's like a Kindle. It's like e-ink. So you could wear this in a normal place like this. It wouldn't glow or anything. It's just normal. But it's got scales on it that can either go dark or light. So you can then control each one of those. Now, clearly, you know, it's only at the front. If you really look, it's only the front bit. It's a proof of concept. But personal screens are a thing. So where you've got taxi tops going through a city, it's the location that changes the creative. Well, this, you could be walking to work and it knows who should be looking at you. Maybe it's a bag, maybe it's a hat. It doesn't have to be a dress, obviously. But really interesting. What are personal screens of the future going to show? And should you be getting the media value from that? In which case, just wearing, and if everybody's doing it, is anybody really going to be special anymore? A screen's going to be that. They're everywhere, so they're nowhere. But it's really interesting. Watch that one. It sort of looks interactive, but it's just playing an animation, by the way. We're starting to take AI back, and we're also starting to have our go at it. So this is about adversarial pixels. It's a really interesting phrase that started probably about 2 years ago. And this is poisoning AI. So AIs are trained on data, your data. All of the big, I'll mention those multimodal models that everybody's trying to get all the data in the world, code, all the music. So they're doing deals with music libraries, with news sites to try and get all of the data. You've got data that they would love to get hold of. They will more than happily do you a commercial deal where they buy your data. But then what happens to that? So as a for instance, all of the images that have probably been on most library sites have been stolen, trained up on those big image generation models using a thing called diffusion. I won't go into it, but the way it works is if you say, here are 50 dogs, pictures of dogs, it will learn the most important pixels of a dog picture and just remember the important pixels. Next time you say, I'd like a dog, it went, well, I know what the important pixels are, I'll just put those into this blank one and I'll make another dog. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's basically how it works. If you know where those pixels are and you take those dog pixels and you put them into a picture of a cat, it still looks like a picture of a cat to us, but you've only taken those special pixels. We can't even see those special pixels. But when the computer comes along, it went, that's a cat. And it's not, it's a dog. So you start confusing it. You start poisoning pictures with pixels from other things. If you train it on 50 pictures, a dog starts to grow legs, for instance. A handbag starts to having handles come out of it. It starts to get confused about what it is. And if you start putting enough cat pixels in dog pictures, by 300 training cycles, literally you ask it for a dog, it will generate a cat. It's useless. Now, also these are transferable. So if you ask it for a picture of a household pet, it will say, well, a household pet is probably a cat or a dog. And all of those poison pixels start also then poisoning the results of that as well. So if your content is going onto the internet, say, for instance, your most successful campaigns, an AI is probably then trained on those, and if you ask an AI, come up with a picture of a billboard with a really popular campaign on it, it's been trained on your imagery. So possibly what your PR department should be doing is running it through this filter first before anything goes onto the internet. You should be probably putting these pixels into your campaigns as well. So if anybody takes a picture of it, then those pixels are already starting to poison the machine. So I'm not saying do it, because I'm not sure the legality of it, but it's really interesting. And finally, we have killer robot snails. They're not actually killer. I just said that because it sounds more interesting. But this is from Bristol University, came out last month. I thought it was really interesting because these are little robot snails. They're inspired by mollusks, and you can stick them onto surfaces. It can carry a little bit of weight. And basically, it can move around. It can generate things. If you're generating murals, you stick it on a wall and tell it to go and paint the mural. It'll do that for you, kind of. But the really interesting one I thought was this one. As somebody who does a lot of workshops, then I thought this would be great. You walk out of the room, you stick the snail on the wall, and it cleans the wall for you. But likewise, if you've got a panel, maybe it can do that as well. So this is all about, there's a load of work going on right now in soft robotics, things that can wiggle through holes. This is just a new way of doing it. So robot snails may not be part of your billboards, but if there is one in the top corner at midnight every day, it comes and cleans the billboard, makes it nice and sparkly. Excellent, then you're welcome. You know who to go to, University of Bristol. We got through. I think we're on time, so that's excellent. Thank you for listening. Just say, as ever, QR codes are everywhere. I do this every week. Pretty much every Monday, I do a little video with some more things like this. If you'd like that, it's only on YouTube. It's free, so do that. That's that. If you want to get in contact with me, that's that one. Other than that one, please do subscribe, because I like to see those numbers. Other than that, thanks for having me. I think I'm the only person in front of possibly Tom and your lunch. So I'll be quiet. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you again next year, hopefully.